The carriage door swung open and Bella Carver tumbled inside, bone-tired and thinking only of her narrow bed 3 miles away, not noticing the figure already seated in the shadows until her head hit the leather and sleep pulled her under like a wave. Sorin Ashford watched the young woman collapse onto the opposite seat, her dark hair spilling across her face, one hand still clutching her worn leather messenger bag. He leaned forward slightly, studying her in the dim light filtering through the curtained windows. She wore simple clothes, jeans and a jacket that had seen better days, and there was ink on her fingers. The scent of coffee and paper clung to her, mixed with something else. Fear, perhaps, though faded now in sleep. "My lord?" The driver's voice came through the small speaking panel, uncertain. Sorin's pale eyes never left the sleeping woman. "Go slow, Victor. Let her rest." "But she is not." "I know who she is not. Drive slowly. Take the river route." The carriage pulled away from the curb with barely a tremor. Sorin settled back against the seat, his white hair catching what little light there was. He had lived 4 centuries and learned patience in ways mortals never could. The woman's breathing was already deep and even, the kind of exhausted sleep that spoke of too many nights with too little rest. She shifted slightly, her face turning toward him, and he saw the shadows under her eyes. The tension even sleep couldn't quite erase from the corners of her mouth. He knew he should wake her, send her on her way. But something made him hesitate. Perhaps it was the vulnerability of her, so complete and unguarded. Perhaps it was the faint scent of jasmine in her hair, unexpectedly delicate against the sharper smells of the city. Or perhaps it was simply that he was tired too, in the way only the very old could be tired, and there was something almost peaceful about sharing this quiet space with someone who asked nothing of him because she didn't even know he was there. The carriage moved through the London streets, the late autumn rain beginning to tap against the roof. Sorin pulled his own coat closed and watched the woman sleep. She murmured something once, a name he couldn't quite catch, and curled more tightly into herself. 20 minutes became 30. The river route was taking them the long way around, through the old quarter where gas lamps still burned beside the modern streetlights, where the buildings leaned close and the shadows ran deep. Sorin's world, in many ways. The world above the world, where his kind had learned to exist alongside humans who mostly didn't believe in them anymore. The woman's phone buzzed in her pocket. Once, then again. She didn't stir. Sorin considered reaching for it, seeing who was trying to reach her with such persistence, but he kept his hands to himself. He had not survived this long by being careless about boundaries, even small ones. At the 40-minute mark, the carriage slowed further. Victor's voice came through again, lower this time. "My lord, we are being followed." Sorin's eyes sharpened. "How many?" "1 car, black sedan. It picked us up 10 minutes ago near the bridge." "And you're certain?" "I am certain." Sorin looked at the sleeping woman with new interest. Who was she, to warrant a tale? He breathed in again, sorting through the scents more carefully now. The ink, yes. Old paper. The specific chemical smell of newspaper archives. A journalist, then. And the fear he'd caught before, it wasn't faded at all. It was baked into her, the kind that came from weeks or months of looking over one's shoulder. "Lose them," Sorin said quietly. "Do not wake her." The carriage took a sharp right, then a left, the movement smooth enough that the woman only stirred slightly, one hand coming up to tuck beneath her cheek. Victor was good at his work. He had been driving for Sorin for 60 years, first horses and carriages in truth, now these modern cars styled to look like the old ways. The king of the British vampires did not ride in taxis or hire common cars. He had his standards. They wove through the narrow streets of Southwark, places where the sedan couldn't follow without being obvious. Sorin watched through the gap in the curtains as they lost the tail somewhere near the old coaching inn. Victor circled back, taking them north again toward the address Sorin had been heading for when this woman had stumbled into his carriage. Except she hadn't stumbled, had she? The carriage had been waiting outside the office building where she must have been working late. Someone had sent this car for her. Someone had given her this address, this time, this specific pickup. And someone else had been waiting to follow. Sorin reached for his phone. an elegant thing that looked antique but held more computing power than most mortals would ever need. He typed a message to his seneschal. Run a trace, black sedan, plates following my carriage tonight. Find out who hired it and why. The response came quickly. At once, my lord. The woman shifted again, and this time her eyes fluttered open. For a moment she stared at the ceiling of the carriage, confused, and then her gaze tracked sideways and found Sorin in the shadows. She sat up so fast she nearly hit her head on the low ceiling. Easy, Sorin said, his voice low and even. Who are you? Bella's hand went to her bag, clutching it to her chest. Where am I? You are in my carriage. You got into it approximately 45 minutes ago and fell asleep immediately. She stared at him, her mind clearly trying to catch up. Sorin saw the moment awareness returned fully, the flush of embarrassment climbing her neck. Oh my God, I am so sorry. I thought this was my car. I ordered a car. They told me to wait at the corner, and I didn't even look. I'm so sorry. It's quite all right. It's really not. She was fumbling for the door handle now. Please, just let me out anywhere. I'll get another car. I can't believe Miss Carver. She froze. How do you know my name? Sorin gestured to the bag she was clutching. A press pass was clipped to the outside, her photo and name clearly visible even in the dim light. You're wearing it. Oh, right. She looked down, then back up at him, really looking now, and Sorin saw the moment she registered what he was. The unnatural stillness of him, the white hair and paper-pale skin, the eyes that caught the light wrong. She didn't scream, which was interesting. She just went very still herself. What are you? I think you know. That's not possible. And yet. Bella's fingers tightened on her bag. She was afraid now, genuinely afraid, but there was something else underneath it. Curiosity, the kind that probably got journalists into trouble. Vampires aren't real. We prefer to keep it that way. Generally, we don't share carriages with exhausted reporters. Sorin tilted his head slightly. Tell me, Miss Carver, who did you think sent this car for you? My editor. She said she'd arranged something because I was working late and the tubes had stopped running. Does your editor usually send antique carriages? Bella blinked. I didn't think about it. I was too tired. Clearly. Sorin leaned forward just enough that more light fell across his face. Let her see what he was, fully. Someone hired a car to pick you up tonight. I suspect it was not your editor. This is my carriage, Miss Carver, mine alone. No one sends it but me. So the car you were meant to get into, the one waiting at that corner, that was someone else's idea. And when you got into mine by mistake, someone followed. The blood drained from her face. Followed? A black sedan. We lost them 20 minutes ago. She was shaking now, just a little. Why would anyone follow me? You tell me. What have you been working on that might make someone nervous? Bella's jaw set. For a moment, Sorin thought she might not answer, might retreat into journalistic instinct and protect her sources and stories. But then she let out a long breath. I've been investigating financial irregularities at Mercer Holdings. It's a private equity firm. They've been moving massive amounts of money through shell companies, and I found a connection to several city council members who approved contracts that benefited Mercer directly. It's corruption, but it's deeper than that. Some of the money trail leads to properties that don't seem to exist, or exist but aren't on any public records. And 3 people who were going to talk to me have disappeared in the last 2 months. Not dead, just gone. Vanished. Sorin sat back. Mercer Holdings. He knew that name. Lucien Mercer was one of his own, a vampire who'd been turned in the 1800s and had built himself a fortune in the modern age. Not a particularly powerful vampire, but a clever one. And if he was mixed up with human corruption and making people disappear, he was breaking several of the old laws. You've stumbled into something dangerous, Sorin said finally. I know that. That's why I'm still investigating instead of publishing. Bella's fear was still there, but her voice was steadier now. Who are you, really? My name is Sorin Ashford. The name didn't seem to mean anything to her, which was both amusing and oddly refreshing. And you're a vampire. Yes. The others I've been investigating, the properties that don't exist, are those connected to vampires too? Very likely. She processed that, her fingers drumming against her bag, a nervous gesture, but her eyes were sharp. Can you help me? Why would I do that? Because if what I've found is true, then someone in your world is breaking rules, making noise, drawing attention, and I can't imagine you want that. Sorin smiled for the first time, a bare curve of his mouth. She was quick, this one. No, we do not want that. Then help me finish this story. Help me find out who's behind it and why people are disappearing. And I'll make sure when it comes out as human corruption. I'll bury the parts that point to anything else. You would do that? Hide the truth? I'd do that to stay alive long enough to publish anything at all. Bella met his eyes directly. And because something tells me that exposing your world wouldn't just put me in danger, it would put a lot of people in danger who don't deserve it. Sorin studied her in silence. She was brave. He'd give her that. Or foolish. The line was thin sometimes. If I help you, you will follow my instructions exactly. No deviations, no heroic journalist impulses. This isn't a story you can chase the way you're used to chasing stories. Agreed. And you will tell no one about me or what I am. Agreed. Then we will help each other, Miss Carver. She let out a breath that was half relief, half disbelief at what she was agreeing to. Bella. If we're going to do this, just call me Bella. Bella, Sorin repeated and liked the shape of the name. We should start by finding out who sent that car for you tonight and who was in the sedan. How do we do that? We already are. Sorin's phone chimed softly, and he glanced at it. My people are tracking them now. We'll have answers soon. The carriage had been circling aimlessly for the last 10 minutes, but now Victor's voice came through the panel. My lord, where shall I take you? Sorin looked at Bella. Where do you live? She gave an address in Camden, a modest flat by the sound of it. Sorin shook his head. You can't go home, not if someone was planning to intercept you tonight. Then where? Somewhere safe. He leaned forward and spoke to Victor. The Ashford house, the old quarter entrance. The carriage changed direction, heading east now into the parts of London where the oldest buildings still stood, where underground ran deeper than the tube maps showed. Bella was watching him with open curiosity now, fear receding in the face of what must be 1,000 questions. The properties you found, the ones that don't exist, Sorin said. Do you have the list? In here. She patted her bag. Addresses, purchase records, everything I could dig up. I'll need to see them. If they're vampire holdings, I'll recognize the patterns. And if they are, then Lucian Mercer has been using vampire resources to play human games, and that is very much against our laws. The council will be interested. There's a vampire council. Did you think we had no structure, no government? Sorin's tone was dry. We have been here far longer than your parliaments and presidents, Bella. We learned organization when Rome was still young. She absorbed that, filing it away. The journalist's mind at work. What happens to vampires who break the laws? That depends on the severity of the crime. For endangering the secrecy we all depend on, for making mortals disappear in ways that draw attention, the punishment is severe. Death? Or something like it? The carriage descended into a tunnel that Bella clearly hadn't known existed, the modern street giving way to older brick and stone. The lights here were still gas, burning in iron brackets along the walls. She pressed her face to the window, eyes wide. Welcome to the old quarter, Sorin said. The London your history books mention but your maps have forgotten. They wound through narrow passages, past buildings that looked Victorian or older, past other carriages and people dressed in clothes that spanned centuries. Bella saw it all with the wonder of someone discovering that fairy tales had been real all along. Vampires walked beside humans here, both kinds moving with purpose through streets that existed in the spaces between the world above. The carriage stopped before a house that was more mansion than house, all dark stone and narrow windows. Victor opened the door and offered Bella his hand to help her down. She took it, still staring. "My lord," Victor said to Sorin, "the information you requested." And? The car was hired by a shell company registered to Mercer Holdings. The sedan belonged to a private security firm that Mercer has used before. Sorin's expression hardened. So, it was a trap. "It appears so, my lord." Bella had gone pale again. "They were going to take me, the car I was supposed to get into." "Yes. And if I'd gotten in, if I hadn't made the mistake of getting into yours, you would be one more missing journalist," Sorin finished quietly. "But you are here instead. Luck or fate. I don't much care which." He gestured for her to follow him into the house. The interior was as elegant as the exterior, all dark wood and old paintings, lit by chandeliers that threw soft light across marble floors. Bella turned in a slow circle, taking it in. "How old is this place?" "The house itself is 300 years old. The foundations are older, much older." A woman appeared from one of the side rooms, white-haired and pale like Sorin, wearing a sleek modern suit that somehow didn't clash with the ancient surroundings. "My lord, I have prepared the East Wing as you requested." "Thank you, Katya. This is Bella Carver. She'll be staying with us for a while." Katya's sharp eyes assessed Bella in one quick glance. "The journalist. You know about me? We make it our business to know who's asking questions about our kind." Katya's tone was neutral, neither friendly nor hostile. "You've been circling close to dangerous truths, Miss Carver. I'm starting to realize that." "Katya is my seneschal," Sorin explained. "She manages the house and much of my business in the city. If you need anything, you can ask her. What I need is to understand what I've gotten myself into." Bella pulled her bag closer, "and to figure out how to finish this story without getting killed." "Then let us begin." Sorin led her through to a library that must have held 10,000 books, maybe more, and gestured for her to sit at a long table by the fireplace. "Show me everything you have." Bella pulled out her laptop, folders stuffed with papers, a recorder, and 3 different notebooks. She spread them across the table with the ease of someone who'd done this 100 times before, organizing her information spatially so she could see all the connections at once. "Start with the properties," Sorin said. She pulled up a file, turned the laptop so he could see. Addresses scrolled past, some in London, some in other cities. Manchester, Edinburgh, Cardiff, all purchased through shell companies, all within the last 5 years. Sorin recognized several immediately. They were fronts, places vampires used to move money or hold meetings away from prying eyes. "These 4, he said, pointing. "Vampire holdings, legitimate ones as far as I know. They're registered through the council's human representatives." "And the others?" "The others are more interesting." Sorin pulled the laptop closer, scanning through the details. "These aren't registered, which means whoever set them up didn't want the council to know." "Is that illegal?" "Technically, no. Vampires are allowed to own property, but hiding it from the council suggests you're hiding what you're doing with it." Bella leaned over his shoulder, close enough that he could smell the jasmine in her hair again. "What would someone use secret properties for?" "Any number of things. Storage, meetings with humans who can't know what we are, blood supply chains, or, in this case, possibly holding people you've made disappear." She straightened abruptly. "We have to check them. If those people are being held, we will." Sorin's voice was firm, "but not rashly. If Mercer knows you were investigating, if he tried to have you taken tonight, then he'll be on guard. We need to be smart. I've been smart for 3 months. It hasn't gotten me anywhere except almost kidnapped. And that's why you're here." Sorin turned in his chair to look at her fully. "You're good at finding information, Bella. I can see that. But you're not equipped to fight what comes next." "I am." She wanted to argue. He could see it in the set of her jaw, the flash in her eyes. But she was also smart enough to know he was right. "Fine. Then what do? We find proof. Enough that the council can't ignore what Mercer's been doing. And we make sure your story comes out in a way that protects both of us." They worked through the night, Sorin cross-referencing Bella's information with his own knowledge of vampire holdings and businesses. Katya brought them tea and coffee, and later food that Bella picked at absently while she typed. Sorin didn't eat. Didn't need to. But he stayed, watching her work with a focus that reminded him of scholars he'd known centuries ago before the world had sped up so much. She was beautiful in her concentration, he realized. Not in the obvious way. Not like the carefully maintained immortal beauty of the vampires around him. But in the way mortals were beautiful, temporary, and burning bright because they had so little time. Her hair kept falling in her face and she kept pushing it back, leaving ink smudges on her temple. Her eyes were sharp and dark, missing nothing. "What?" she said, catching him staring. "Nothing. You were looking at me." "I was thinking." "About?" "About the fact that you've somehow survived 3 months of investigating vampires without getting yourself killed." She smiled slightly, the first real smile he'd seen from her. "I'm careful, usually. Usually. Well, I did get into the wrong car tonight. The right car, as it turned out." Their eyes met and held for a moment, something passing between them that Sorin couldn't quite name. Then Bella looked away, back to her screen, and the moment passed. By the time dawn approached, they had a plan. 3 of the unregistered properties were close enough to investigate in person. They would start with the nearest, a warehouse in Deptford that the records said was owned by a company that didn't seem to do any actual business. "I can't go during the day," Sorin said. "Obviously." "So I'll go." "Absolutely not. It's daytime. I'm human. I can walk around in the sun without bursting into flames." "And if Mercer has human guards watching the place?" Bella hesitated. "Then I'll be careful." "No." Sorin's voice was flat. "You won't go alone. Katja can accompany you. She's old enough to tolerate brief exposure to sun if necessary, and she knows how to fight." "I don't need a bodyguard." "Yes, Bella, you do. Someone tried to kidnap you last night. This is not negotiable." She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it again. "Fine, but I'm not sitting around being helpless. I'm still investigating." "I wouldn't expect anything less." Katja appeared as if summoned. "The sun will be up in 15 minutes, my lord. You should rest." "Yes." Sorin stood, suddenly feeling the weight of the approaching dawn. It always pulled at him like this, an inevitable tide. "Katja, tomorrow you'll accompany Bella to the warehouse in Deptford. Reconnaissance only. Don't engage if there's any sign of trouble." "Understood." He looked at Bella, still seated at the table, surrounded by her papers and screens. "The East Wing is yours. Sleep. You need it." "I need to work on this." "And you can tomorrow, after you've rested, after we know more." He softened his tone slightly. "You're safe here, Bella. The house is guarded and warded. No one can come in without my permission. Sleep." She looked like she might argue, but exhaustion was catching up with her. He could see it in the slope of her shoulders, the way her eyes kept drifting shut. "Okay, but tomorrow we move on this. No delays." "Tomorrow," he agreed. Katja led Bella away to the guest rooms, and Sorin descended to his own quarters below, where the sun couldn't reach. He should have been thinking about Mercer, about the investigation, about the political implications of one of his vampires breaking the laws so flagrantly. But instead, he found himself thinking about a journalist with ink on her fingers and jasmine in her hair who had fallen asleep in the wrong carriage and stumbled into his world. He had lived a very long time. Long enough to know that nothing good came from vampires getting involved with mortals beyond the necessary transactions of blood and money. But Bella Carver was already involved, already in danger, and something in him had responded to that in a way he hadn't expected. Protection, perhaps. The instinct to keep something precious safe. Or perhaps just curiosity, the same thing that burned in her. He hadn't been curious about anything in decades, and here was this woman who'd made him curious again. He fell into the day sleep, wondering what she was dreaming about in the room upstairs. When Sorin woke at sunset, he found a note slipped under his door. Katja's handwriting, neat and precise. "Miss Carver and I investigated the Deptford location. Evidence of occupancy, but no prisoners. She found security camera footage showing at least 5 guards, all human. Miss Carver wants to check the second location tonight, awaiting your instructions." Sorin dressed quickly, choosing clothes that would let him move easily if needed. Dark trousers, a dark shirt, nothing ostentatious. When he emerged from the lower levels, he found Bella and Katya in the library, poring over a laptop screen. "You've been busy," he said. Bella jumped slightly, then turned. She'd changed clothes, borrowed something from Katya by the look of it. Black trousers and a fitted jacket that made her look older, more serious. "We found something. Or rather, didn't find something." "Explain." "The warehouse should have been empty according to every record I could find, but someone's using it. There are fresh tire tracks, deliveries in the last week. And when we pulled up camera footage from the street legally, I might add we saw guards doing regular patrols." Sorin moved to look at the screen. The footage was grainy but clear enough. 5 men, exactly as Katya had reported, all carrying themselves with the kind of awareness that meant military or security training. Mercer's people. That's what I thought. So I did some digging on the security company. 3 of the guards are former military, all discharged under questionable circumstances. 1 has a restraining order against him from an ex-girlfriend. These aren't nice people. I know the type. Sorin's expression was grim. If they're guarding an empty warehouse this carefully, there's something inside worth guarding. That's what I said. Bella's energy was barely contained. "We need to get in there, see what they're hiding." "We will. But not the warehouse. It's too exposed, too guarded. We'll start with the second location, the one in Bermondsey. It's a residential building, supposedly vacant, easier to slip in unnoticed." "When?" "Tonight. Now if you're ready." She was already reaching for her bag. "I'm ready." They took a different car this time, something modern and inconspicuous. Victor drove while Sorin sat in the back with Bella, reviewing the building's layout on her laptop. 3 floors, 8 units, bought 5 years ago and left empty according to city records. "If someone's being held here, where would they be?" Bella asked. "Top floor or bottom? Harder to escape from either." The building turned out to be a narrow Victorian conversion in a quiet street. Lights were on in the neighboring buildings, people home from work. But the target building was dark. They parked a street away and approached on foot, Sorin and Katya moving with the preternatural silence of their kind, Bella doing her best to keep up. The front door was locked, but Katya produced a set of picks and had it open in 30 seconds. Inside, the air smelled stale, unused. Dust covered the floor of the entry hall, but Sorin could see scuff marks where someone had walked recently, multiple someones. "Upstairs," he said quietly. They climbed, avoiding the creaking boards that Sorin could identify by sound. At the top floor, they found 3 doors. 2 were locked from the outside, heavy bolts that had been installed recently, the metal still bright. Bella's eyes widened. "Someone's keeping people in there." Sorin listened at the first door. Breathing, slow and even. Sleep or something close to it. He drew the bolt carefully and eased the door open. The room was sparse. A cot, a chair, a bucket. And on the cot, a man in his 40s, thin and unshaven. He stirred as the light from the hallway fell across him, blinking awake. "Who?" he started, then saw them and scrambled backward. "Please, I don't know anything else. I already told them everything. We're not here to hurt you." Bella pushed past Sorin, moving to the man's side with her hands raised. "My name is Bella Carver. I'm a journalist. Are you Daniel Price?" The man stared at her. "How do you know my name?" "Because you were supposed to meet with me 3 months ago, and then you disappeared. I've been looking for you. They took me. After I talked to you on the phone, they were waiting at my flat." Daniel's voice was shaking. "They said I needed to stay quiet, that I'd be released when the inquiry was over. But they keep moving us, keep telling us it's just a few more days." "Us?" "There are others, in the other rooms, or there were. They moved 2 people yesterday." Sorin stepped forward. "Who took you? Did you see them?" Daniel looked at him and his expression changed, fear spiking. "What are you?" "Someone who's going to help you, but I need to know who's responsible." "I don't know names, but the man who comes to check on us, he's not human. I can tell. Something about him is wrong." "Describe him." "Tall, dark hair, speaks with an accent, Eastern European maybe. He wears expensive suits and he smiles too much." That would be one of Mercer's lieutenants. Sorin didn't recognize the specific description, but it fit the profile. We're going to get you out of here. You and whoever else is being held. They found 2 more people in the other locked rooms. A woman named Sarah, who'd been an accountant at a firm that worked with Mercer Holdings, and a younger man, a legal assistant who'd stumbled on documents he shouldn't have seen. All 3 were weak, underfed, but alive. "Can you walk?" Sorin asked them. They could, barely. Katya supported Sarah while Bella helped Daniel. Sorin took the young man, Marcus, moving faster than the others could but adjusting his pace to theirs. They were halfway down the stairs when the front door opened. 2 men entered, both armed. They saw Sorin's group immediately and reached for their weapons. Sorin moved without thinking, covering the distance between them in a blur. He disarmed the first man with a strike that shattered his wrist, then caught the second's gun hand and twisted until the weapon clattered to the floor. "Run," he said over his shoulder to Bella. "Get them out the back. I'm not leaving you." "Now, Bella." She hesitated only a second, then turned and guided the former prisoners toward the back of the building. Katya stayed, moving to flank the 2 guards who were just realizing what they were facing. "Vampire," one of them breathed. "Very observant." Sorin's voice was cold. "You have 3 seconds to tell me where Lucian Mercer is. He'll kill us if we talk. I'll kill you if you don't." The men looked at each other. The one with the broken wrist spoke through gritted teeth. "We don't know where he is. We get orders by phone, payment in cash. We're just hired muscle." "Who hired you?" "A company, Cerberus Security. We don't ask questions." Sorin glanced at Katya. "Let them go." She raised an eyebrow but stepped back. The 2 men scrambled for the door, one cradling his wrist, and disappeared into the night. Sorin could have killed them easily. Probably should have, but they were human and under compulsion. Killing them would raise questions he didn't want to answer. He found Bella and the others in the alley behind the building, huddled by a dumpster. "Are you all right?" "We're fine. What about you?" "Fine." He gestured to Victor, who'd brought the car around. "Get them in. We need to move." They packed everyone into the car, cramped but safe. Daniel was crying quietly, Sarah holding his hand. Marcus just stared out the window like he couldn't believe he was free. "Where are we taking them?" Bella asked quietly. "The house for tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out how to get them back to their lives without Mercer knowing they've been freed." "He'll know as soon as his guards report in?" "Yes, which means we're on a clock now." Back at the Ashford house, Katya and the other staff took charge of the rescued prisoners, getting them food and medical attention. Sorin pulled Bella into his study and closed the door. "This just became a war," he said. "I thought it already was." "No. Before it was an investigation. Now it's open conflict. Mercer will know I'm involved, will know his prisoners are gone, he'll retaliate." Bella sank into a chair. "So what do we do?" "We move faster. Hit the other locations tonight before he can reinforce them or move anyone else." Sorin was already pulling up maps on his computer. "The warehouse in Deptford and the 3rd location, the one in Camden. We split up, hit them simultaneously. That's risky. Everything about this is risky, but if we can free everyone he's holding and document what he's been doing, the council will have to act. And if they don't?" Sorin met her eyes. "Then I will." There was something in his voice that made Bella shiver. A cold promise, the kind that came from centuries of absolute power. You'd kill him, if necessary. I thought you had laws against that. We do, but we also have laws against what Mercer's been doing, against exposing our kind, against making humans disappear, against using vampire resources for personal gain in ways that draw mortal attention. He's broken all of them. The council might show mercy. I won't." Bella stood, moving closer to him. "You're not just doing this because of the laws, are you? You're doing it for me. You're in danger because of him. Yes, I'm doing it for you." "Why? You don't even know me." Sorin was quiet for a long moment. No, I don't. But I know you fell asleep in my carriage looking exhausted and afraid, and something in me decided you shouldn't have to be either of those things. Call it instinct. Call it 400 years of deciding what matters and what doesn't. You matter, Bella. She was close enough now that he could feel the warmth of her, the pulse of her blood just beneath the skin. Human and alive in a way he'd forgotten he could notice. I matter, she repeated softly. Yes. And if I'm not just a case to you, not just a human who needs protecting, what am I? He could lie, should lie, but something about the way she was looking at him made him want to be honest in a way he rarely was. I don't know yet, but I'm beginning to think you're something I didn't expect to find, something I thought I'd stopped looking for centuries ago. What's that? Someone who makes me remember what hope feels like. Bella reached up and touched his face, her fingers warm against his cold skin. I'm falling for you. I think I've been falling since I woke up and saw you sitting there watching over me. That's insane, right? I've known you less than 24 hours. Completely insane. But you feel it too. Yes, Sorin admitted. I feel it too. She kissed him then, rising on her toes to press her mouth to his. It was gentle, questioning, and Sorin found himself answering with a gentleness he hadn't shown anyone in living memory. His hands came up to frame her face, holding her like something precious, and he let himself have this moment of impossible connection. When they finally broke apart, Bella was smiling. We should probably focus on not dying before we explore this further. Probably wise. So, Camden and Deptford, tonight. Tonight, Sorin agreed. They planned it quickly. Sorin would take a team to the warehouse in Deptford, the more dangerous target. Bella would go with Katya to Camden, the residential building that should be easier to clear. Victor would coordinate between the two teams and provide backup if needed. Stay safe, Sorin told Bella as they prepared to leave. Don't take risks. Same to you. I'm 400 years old. I know how to fight. And I'm a stubborn journalist who's survived 3 months of investigating vampires. I know how to not get caught. She kissed him again, quick and fierce. Come back to me. Always. The team split up, Sorin taking 2 other vampires from his household along with Victor. The warehouse was in an industrial area, dark and quiet at this hour. They approached from the back, where the security was weakest, and Sorin felt the familiar cold focus of combat settling over him. He hadn't fought like this in years. Decades, perhaps. The modern world had fewer wars, fewer reasons for a vampire king to bare his fangs. But he remembered how. The body never forgot. They found 6 guards inside, spread throughout the warehouse. Sorin took the first one before he could raise an alarm, a hand over his mouth and a whisper in his ear that sent him into unconsciousness. The others fell quickly, Katya's people efficient and silent. In the back of the warehouse, they found what they were looking for, a makeshift holding area, partitioned off with chain-link fencing. 8 people inside, men and women ranging from their 20s to their 60s, all with the same exhausted, frightened look. Who are you? One woman asked as Sorin cut the locks. Friends, we're getting you out. Mercer will find us. He always finds us. Not this time. They were loading the rescued prisoners into a van when Sorin's phone rang, Katya's name on the screen. We have a problem, she said without preamble. What kind of problem? Mercer is here, at the Camden location. Bella tried to stall him, but he knows who she is. We need backup now. Sorin's blood went cold. Hold him there. I'm coming. He drove himself, pushing the car as fast as it would go through the empty night streets. Camden was 15 minutes away. He made it in 8. The building was lit now, lights blazing from the upper windows. Sorin could hear shouting from inside, and under it, Bella's voice, calm and clear, arguing. He took the stairs 3 at a time, following the sound. On the 3rd floor, he found them. Mercer was everything Sorin had expected, dark-haired, expensively dressed, with the kind of cold handsomeness that came from being turned young and staying that way forever. He had Bella by the arm, not quite threatening but close, while Katya stood a few feet away, clearly ready to intervene, but held back by something. "Let her go, Lucian," Sorin said from the doorway. Mercer turned, and his expression went from annoyed to alarmed in an instant. "My lord, I didn't realize you were involved in this." "Now you do. Release her." Mercer let go of Bella's arm immediately, stepping back. "This is a misunderstanding. Miss Carver has been investigating matters that don't concern her. Matters that concern me a great deal, as it happens." Sorin moved into the room, placing himself between Mercer and Bella. "You've been holding humans prisoner, Lucian, using vampire resources to manipulate mortal politics, exposing our kind to scrutiny we cannot afford. I've been protecting our interests. You've been lining your pockets and playing games that put all of us at risk." Sorin's voice was cold, absolute. "The council will hear of this. Every prisoner we've freed tonight, every piece of evidence Miss Carver has gathered, it will all go before them. You're finished." Mercer's composure cracked. "You're taking the word of a human journalist over one of your own kind?" "I'm enforcing the laws that keep us safe. That's my duty as king." "Then you're a fool." Mercer moved suddenly, inhumanly fast, reaching for Bella. But Sorin was faster. He caught Mercer's arm and twisted, forcing him to his knees. "Don't," Sorin said softly. "Don't make this worse." Mercer struggled, then went still. "The council will never side with a mortal against me." "We'll see." Katya moved to bind Mercer's hands with silver-threaded cords, the kind that burned vampire flesh enough to keep even the strong ones subdued. Sorin turned to Bella, who was pale but unharmed. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine. He grabbed me, but Katya got here before he could do anything worse." She looked at Mercer with open disgust. He was gloating, telling me how humans like me were so easy to control, how the story would never come out because he owned enough people to bury it. He's wrong. I know, because we're not burying it, we're publishing it. Bella's eyes were bright with determination. "Everything. The corruption, the disappearances, the shell companies, all of it. And the vampire connection? Buried in subtext. Anyone who knows your world will see it. Anyone who doesn't will just see human greed and criminality." Sorin nodded slowly. "That's acceptable." They took Mercer back to the Ashford house and locked him in the lower levels, in a room warded specifically to hold vampires. The council would be summoned tomorrow night, and Mercer would face judgment. But for now, there was just the quiet of the library, and Bella curled in a chair with her laptop, typing furiously. "I need to get this written before he finds a way out," she said when Sorin brought her tea. "Need to have it ready to publish the moment the council makes their ruling." "He won't find a way out. Not from that room. Still, I've come too far to take chances now." She took the tea gratefully, sipping it while she typed one-handed. "Thank you, for tonight, for all of this." "You don't need to thank me." "Yes, I do. You risked a lot, going against one of your own for a human you barely know." Sorin sat across from her. "I told you. You matter." She stopped typing, looking at him over the screen. "So do you, to me, Bella. I know, I'm mortal and you're not. I have maybe 60 more years if I'm lucky, and you have forever. I know all the reasons this doesn't make sense. And yet here we are." "Here we are," she agreed. They sat in silence for a while, Bella working and Sorin watching her, both of them aware of the impossibility and inevitability of what was growing between them. When dawn approached again and Sorin had to retreat to his rooms, Bella followed him to the door of the lower level. "Sleep well," she said. "And you. Don't work all day. You need rest." "Yes, sir." But she was smiling, and she kissed him before he descended into the darkness. The council met the following night in a chamber beneath the oldest part of London, in tunnels that predated the Romans. 12 vampires, ancient and powerful, gathered in a circle while Sorin presented his case against Lucian Mercer. The evidence was overwhelming. The freed prisoners gave testimony. Bella's documentation showed the money trail and the corruption, and Mercer's own arrogance had left a paper trail even the council couldn't ignore. "The laws are clear," Sorin said. "Lucian Mercer endangered our secrecy for personal gain. He held humans prisoner in ways that drew mortal attention. He violated the compact we have maintained for centuries. I ask for the full penalty." The council deliberated for 2 hours. Then the eldest of them, a woman named Elisabetta, who'd been turned in the time of the Caesars, spoke. "Lucien Mercer, you are found guilty of all charges. Your assets are forfeit. Your immortality is stripped. You will be cast out from our protection and exiled beyond our borders. If you return, the sentence is final death." It was a harsh sentence, but not as harsh as it could have been. Mercer would live, technically, but as a rogue vampire with no territory and no support, his existence would be precarious at best. He was dragged from the chamber shouting threats and denials, but no one listened. Elisabetta turned to Sorin. "You did well, my king. The human, this journalist, she holds dangerous knowledge. She does, but she's chosen to protect it rather than expose it. Her story will name only human criminals. And you trust her? Yes. That is foolish. Mortals are not reliable. This one is." Sorin met the ancient vampire's gaze steadily. "And I will vouch for her." Elisabetta smiled slightly. "You care for her. I can see it. Be careful, Sorin. Loving mortals only leads to grief." "So I've been told. And yet you will do it anyway." "Yes." Back at the house, Bella's story was ready. She published it that night, uploading it to her paper's website and watching as it immediately started spreading across the internet. The headline read, "Financial Empire Built on Corruption and Kidnapping. How Mercer Holdings Fell." It was devastating. Mercer's human associates were named, the corruption laid bare, the disappeared people found, and their stories told. Within hours, the police were making arrests. By morning, the story was national news. Bella watched it all from the library, refreshing her phone compulsively, reading the comments and reactions. Sorin sat with her, not needing to refresh anything, just being present. "I did it," she said finally, her voice wondering. "I actually did it." "You did. People are safe because of this. Daniel and Sarah and Marcus and all the others, they get their lives back. Thanks to you." She turned to him. "Thanks to us. I couldn't have done this without you. And I wouldn't have known it needed to be done without you." Sorin took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "What happens now, Bella?" "What do you mean?" "The story's published. Mercer is gone. You're safe. You could go back to your life, your flat in Camden, your job, your normal world. Is that what you want?" "No, but I'm trying to be practical, to give you the choice I didn't give you when I pulled you into this." Bella was quiet for a moment, considering. Then she said, "I don't want to go back, not to the way things were. What do you want? This, you, whatever this is that we're building between us." She turned in her chair to face him fully. "I know it's complicated. I know I'm mortal and you're not. But Sorin, I feel more alive with you than I have in years, like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." "You are," Sorin said quietly. "You are exactly where you're supposed to be. Then let me stay. Not as a guest, not as someone you're protecting, as someone who's choosing to be here. For as long as you want. And if I want forever." He understood what she was asking, what she was offering. There are ways to make mortal life immortal. But Bella, it's not a decision to make lightly. Once done, it cannot be undone. I know. I'm not saying right now. I'm saying eventually, when we're both sure. Because I want time with you, Sorin. Real time, not just the 60 years I have left. You would give up your humanity? I'd be trading it for something better. For you, for this world you've shown me, for the ability to keep telling stories that matter for more than one short lifetime. She smiled. I'm a journalist. Think of the perspective I could gain with centuries instead of decades. Sorin pulled her closer into his lap, holding her against him. You're remarkable. You know that? I'm stubborn and reckless. Yes, and remarkable. They stayed like that as the sun rose outside, the library filling with morning light that Sorin carefully avoided. Bella eventually fell asleep against his shoulder, exhausted from the night's excitement and the adrenaline crash that followed. Sorin held her while she slept, thinking about futures he'd stopped imagining for himself centuries ago. Months passed. Bella didn't go back to her flat except to pack up her belongings. She moved into the Ashford house officially, taking rooms in the East Wing that soon filled with her books and papers and research. She kept working for her paper, writing stories that mattered, uncovering truths. But she came home to Sorin every night, and slowly, the modern world and the vampire world became one world for her. She learned the politics of the vampire court, met the other elders, earned respect through her intelligence and her integrity. She learned to move through the old quarter without fear, to recognize the signs of vampire magic, to defend herself if needed. And through it all, Sorin was there, teaching her, protecting her, falling more deeply in love with her every day. "I'm ready," she said one night, 6 months after that first carriage ride. They were in his study, going over documents about a new case she was investigating. Sorin looked up from the papers. "Ready for what?" "To turn, to become what you are." He set the papers down carefully. "Are you certain? There's no rush, Bella. You have time. I don't want to wait. I want this. I want you, forever. And I want to keep doing this work, this mission of finding truth and protecting people for more than one lifetime." She moved around the desk to stand before him. "I've thought about it, really thought about it, and I'm certain." Sorin searched her face, looking for doubt or fear. He found only determination and love. "It will hurt. The transformation. I know. And you'll lose the sun, lose the daylight forever. I know that too, but I'll have the night. I'll have forever. And I'll have you. Then yes." He stood, cupping her face in his hands. "Yes, Bella. I'll turn you. I'll make you mine in every way that matters." The turning happened 3 nights later, in a ceremony overseen by the council. It was traditional, formal, witnessed by the eldest vampires as a promise that Bella would be welcomed into their ranks. Sorin made the cut carefully, his fangs sharp in her throat, and he took enough blood to bring her to the edge of death. Then he gave her his own blood, rich and dark and ancient, and watched as it took hold. She died in his arms at dawn. He held her through the day while her body transformed, the human cells giving way to something immortal. And at sunset, she opened her eyes and they were silver-bright vampire eyes, beautiful and terrible. "Sorin," she whispered, her voice the same but different, stronger. "I'm here. I can hear everything, feel everything. Is it always like this? You'll learn to filter it, to control it. I'll teach you." He helped her sit up, watching as she discovered her new strength, her new senses. "How do you feel?" "Powerful, hungry, alive in a way I've never been alive before." She looked at him and smiled, and her fangs showed white against her lips. "And grateful. For you. For this. For all of it." They spent weeks helping her adjust, learning to feed without killing, to move through the world as a vampire instead of a human. Bella adapted quickly, her journalist's mind absorbing the new information with the same focus she'd brought to her old investigations. And she kept writing, kept finding stories that needed to be told. But now she had centuries to tell them, and the protection of the vampire king at her back. 2 years after that first night in the carriage, Bella published what would become her most famous piece. It was an investigation into corporate abuses that had gone undetected for decades, exposing practices that had hurt thousands of people. The story won awards, changed laws, and made her name synonymous with fearless journalism. The publication party was held at a historic hotel. All of London's media elite gathered to celebrate. Bella moved through the crowd in a deep blue dress, accepting congratulations and answering questions, and Sorin watched from the edge of the room with quiet pride. When she finally extracted herself from the admirers and came to find him, he held out his hand. "Ready to leave?" "More than ready." They slipped out a side door, leaving the party behind. Victor was waiting with the carriage, the same one Bella had stumbled into that first night. They climbed in and settled into the seats across from each other, just as they had then. "Where to, my lord?" Victor asked through the speaking panel. Sorin looked at Bella, and she looked back, her silver eyes bright with love and mischief. "Nowhere in particular," Sorin said. "Just drive. Go slow. We have all the time in the world." The carriage pulled away from the hotel, moving through the London streets at an easy pace. Bella slid across to sit beside Sorin, tucking herself against his side. He wrapped an arm around her, holding her close. "Do you remember that first night?" she asked softly. "Every moment of it." "I was so tired, so afraid. I didn't know what I was getting into when I collapsed in this carriage." "Neither did I. And now? Now I can't imagine my world without you in it." Sorin pressed a kiss to her white hair, the color it had turned when she'd become vampire. "You saved me as much as I saved you, Bella. Made me remember what it was to care about something beyond duty and politics. We saved each other." She tilted her face up to kiss him properly. "And we're going to keep saving each other for a very long time." "Forever," Sorin agreed. Outside, the city rolled past, familiar and strange, old and new, mortal and immortal. The carriage moved slowly through it all, carrying two vampires who'd found each other by chance and chosen each other by design. And in the quiet of that shared space, surrounded by the sounds of the night they both now belonged to, Bella and Sorin held each other and dreamed about the centuries to come. The future stretched before them, infinite and bright with possibility. Stories to uncover, truths to tell, adventures to share. They would face challenges, certainly, politics and danger and the weight of immortal responsibility. But they would face them together, partners in every sense of the word. Bella's phone buzzed with notifications from the party, people still celebrating her success. She silenced it without looking, choosing instead to be present in this moment. The world could wait, her work could wait. Right now there was just this: the man she loved, the city she'd grown to call home in both its mortal and immortal aspects, and the gentle motion of the carriage carrying them through the night. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For telling the driver to go slow that first night. For letting me sleep. For not waking me and sending me into the trap that was waiting." "You're welcome, though I think fate had a hand in it. You were meant to fall asleep in my carriage, Bella. We were meant to find each other." "I believe that too." They rode in comfortable silence for a while, content just to be together. The carriage circled through the old quarter eventually, past the Ashford house where they'd built their life together, past the library where they'd first worked side by side, past the council chambers where Bella had been welcomed as a member of the vampire world. "Do you miss it?" Sorin asked. "Your old life, the sunlight, being human." Bella considered the question seriously, as she always did. "Sometimes I miss the sun, the way it felt on my face, the colors of daylight. But do I regret the trade? Never. This life with you is worth every sunrise I'll never see again." "If you ever do regret it." "I won't. Sorin, look at me." She turned in his arms so they were face to face. "I chose this. I choose this. Every single day I wake up at sunset and I choose you and this life we've built. That's not going to change. You're very certain for someone so young in immortal terms. I'm certain because I know my own heart, and my heart belongs to you." He kissed her then, deep and thorough, pouring centuries of loneliness and longing into the kiss, all of it answered by her warmth and certainty. When they broke apart, both of them were breathless in the way vampires rarely were. "I love you, Bella Ashford." She smiled at the name, the one she'd taken legally and formally when they'd married in a ceremony that blended mortal and immortal traditions. "I love you too." The carriage continued its slow journey, winding through the streets with no destination in mind. Victor knew his job: keep them moving, keep them safe, give them this time together away from the demands of the world. The driver had been doing this for 200 years in one form or another, and he would do it for 200 more if needed. Inside the carriage, Bella and Sorin sat together as the night deepened around them. They talked quietly about small things and large things, made plans for the next investigation and the next century, laughed at shared memories and created new ones. And through it all, the carriage moved slowly, giving them time, giving them space, carrying them gently through the immortal city they called home. Hours later, as dawn approached, Victor brought them back to the house. Sorin and Bella climbed out, still holding hands, and walked together into the sanctuary of their home. They descended to the lower levels where the sun couldn't reach, to the rooms they shared, and there in the darkness that was no longer frightening but safe, they lay down together. "Good night," Bella whispered, her head on Sorin's chest, listening to the unnecessary heartbeat he maintained out of habit. "Good morning," he corrected gently, "though I suppose for us, they're the same thing now." "Good night, good morning, good forever," Bella murmured, already drifting into the day sleep. Sorin held her as she slept, as he had that first night when she'd been mortal and fragile and his. As he would hold her for all the nights to come, through the centuries they would share, through the challenges and triumphs and quiet moments like this one. Outside, London woke to a new day. Inside, two vampires slept in each other's arms, secure in the love they'd found and the future they'd chosen. The story of how they'd met, the journalist who fell asleep in the wrong carriage and the king who told the driver to go slow, would become legend among their kind. A tale of fate and choice, of protection and trust, of love that bridged the gap between mortal and immortal. But for Bella and Sorin, it wasn't a legend. It was just their beginning. The first chapter of an infinite book, still being written, still unfolding, full of adventure and danger and joy and love. They had forever to write it, and they intended to make every moment count. The carriage sat in the garage beneath the house, waiting for the next night, the next slow drive through the city. And in the rooms below, two vampires who had found each other against all odds slept peacefully, dreaming their immortal dreams, secure in the knowledge that they had all the time in the world, and they would spend it together. The end.